So have you ever heard about boundaries? People speak a lot about boundaries these days, and boundaries is a very good thing. But today we're going to speak about unhealthy boundaries. What are unhealthy boundaries and what's the danger of unhealthy boundaries? Now, the best way I can explain boundaries, I can speak about or relate it to a gated community. We live in a gated community because we want to be safe. But in a gated community, the gate is not always closed. You have this decision to open and close the gate. But the gate stays closed so that not everybody can come in. But you have a decision to open the gate and to allow some people in. Also, even if you stay in a gated community, you keep your door locked because other people who lives in the same community might let somebody in, but you don't want this person to come into your house. That's why you lock your door. Now, boundaries is basically like that. You have this decision what kind of people you allow in your life, and even the people that you do allow in your life, you decide what kind of actions are allowed and what is not allowed. It's to protect yourself, it's to build healthy relationships, and therefore boundaries is a very good thing. Lisa Romano said, boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are gates to let people in. Boundaries are not rejection, they are self-care. Healthy boundaries is a very good thing. Healthy boundaries is a very important thing because if you don't have healthy boundaries, any person can just come into your life and do what they want. It normally hurts you a lot. Healthy boundaries are clear and respectful limits that individuals establish to protect their physical, emotional, and mental well-being while maintaining a sense of autonomy and self-respect. So if you allow boundaries and if you set in good boundaries, it's good for you physically, it's good for you emotionally, and it is good for your mental health. So healthy boundaries is like saying everybody's feelings matter. I love myself enough to have wants and desires, and I also understand that you have wants and needs and desires. So I make sure my wants and needs and desires are met, but I also want to help you with your wants, with your needs, and with your desires. These are some examples or explanations of healthy boundaries. Now, what is unhealthy boundaries? Unhealthy boundaries is normally things that people use that are not emotionally in a good place. They might be even insecure, they might even be toxic, and they might display certain behaviors that they call boundaries. And they say, I'm doing this, I'm acting this way because I have boundaries. But if you go look behind the scenes, or if you go look at the core of, or if you look a bit internally, you will see that these boundaries are actually very unhealthy. Unhealthy boundaries are things like your feelings don't matter, and therefore I'm going to make demands to control you and to control this relationship. So people who have unhealthy boundaries uses boundaries to control and to dominate other people. They will even use it to hurt other people, and they will call it boundaries. Why do people develop unhealthy boundaries? I'm going to give you two things that might answer that question for you, or I'm going to give you two things to answer that question for you. Number one, they grew up in environments where their needs and wants did not matter. If your wants and your needs doesn't matter, that starts to feel familiar, that starts to feel natural, and because we are creatures of habit, our body loves habit. Not a good habit or a bad habit, a healthy habit or a toxic habit. Whenever there is habit, the body loves it. So these people were ignored and even punished for having needs and wants. At a young age, they had needs, they had wants. And then every single time they spoke about their needs, they spoke about their wants, their caretakers or parents or teachers either ignored them or punished them in different ways for them expressing their needs and their wants. This caused them to not even know what their needs and wants are because it was never developed. They never had the opportunity to experience with new things. And for a little child and for your brain, it's very important to experience with some new things, not unhealthy new things, but healthy new things. If you want to know more about that, go check this video out that I did on what stagnates your growth, and it will speak to you and it will teach you how to have this idea of trying new experiences, hanging out with new people, how it helps you grow and how it's good for your brain. So these people also in relationships, they set their own needs and wants aside and they become overgivers. Now, an overgiver is not a healthy boundary. Now, these people still might have boundaries, they still have the gate, but they open it to everybody. And even if people hurt them, they keep opening the gate. They become people pleasers and they cannot say no. Why? Because they have been taught and trained that my needs, my wants, my desires aren't important. I'm just here to take care of yours. That feels natural to the body. It does sound like the people I'm explaining right now are people like, they have no boundaries. But they do this for a while until they cannot take it anymore. And then they start to shut people out. This is where the unhealthy boundary comes in. Now they start to push everybody away. Now everybody becomes the enemy, because for too long I have been hurt. For too long things have been too bad. Now I'm closing that gate and I'm keeping it shut. Now you're not only keeping the bad out, you are also keeping the good out. This is one example of an unhealthy boundary. The second example of an unhealthy boundary I'm going to give to you now. Before I get there, I just want to ask you to like and to subscribe to this video. We are really trusting to get to 1,000 subscribers, and you can help us to get that. Also want to encourage you to leave us a comment, share this video with other people, because we also believe it's going to help them. So number 2, they are extremely spoiled growing up. So this is just the opposite of the first one. So where the first one is your needs don't matter, you don't matter, you just have to shut up and be quiet and stop telling us what you want. We're going to ignore you, and we're even going to kind of punish you for that. The second one is where all the attention, the whole world is about this kid or this child or this person. And that becomes a habit. So the body now becomes familiar with everything is about me. All my needs will always be met. Other people's wants and needs doesn't matter. The whole world needs to stop when I have a want, when I have a need. And this is also very dangerous. So what happens? Their needs and feelings come first, and those of others does not matter to them. They get extremely angry and extremely upset when they are not the center of attention anymore, because that is what they are used to. They end up not valuing the needs of others because only their own needs and their own wants matter. These people start to dominate and they start to control other people to get what they want, and then they call it boundaries. They say, I'm doing this, I'm treating you this way because this is my boundary. But that boundary comes from a very toxic place. That boundary comes from a very unhealthy place. And when they cannot control people, they start to use silent treatment. This is one of the most dangerous things that you can do to other people. And it's very unhealthy people who does this silent treatment. I ignore you, I become cold, I give you the cold shoulder. This is one of the strongest forms of manipulation that you can get. And they don't talk to you, they are cold, they don't reply to you, and then they will say, but this is my boundary, and it's not a healthy thing. Sherry Keffer said, boundaries aren't about punishing, they are about creating safety for yourself. And this is the opposite of what we see in these people's lives. They use boundaries for punishing. They don't use boundaries for safety. And when we use boundaries for safety, it's not just the safety, it's not just my safety. So if I put boundaries in, it's not just my safety, it's also the safety of the other person. So I think it's very important to understand this, especially now that the word boundaries is so out there and so many people speak about it and so many people apply it, which is very important. But if we apply it out of a place of emotional hurt and toxicity, and we don't get healing and we don't understand how to use boundaries, we can use it to hurt people at the end of the day. I hope this video helped you. From Mind Prosperity, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you soon again. Goodbye.